So this is a video where you can take a refuge vow. You can take a refuge vow to become a Buddhist. This was a live Zoom that I did for people. And in my morning practice, my spirit said, make it available on YouTube because a refuge vow is a contract between you and the universe. And it helps if you've got someone there kind of in the room live acting as your witness. But it's not essential. You can make a refuge vow by yourself to the universe, following the words that will appear in this video and the teachings about it in this video. And if you get the opportunity, do it with a live person too. If you meet a rinpoche or a lama that offers you refuge, then do that too. But in the meantime, there's nothing stopping you if you feel pulled to Buddhism in whatever form that Buddhism is. You can take the vow and the universe will hear your vow. So I cleaned up and edited the video from the Zoom call, kind of took out everybody's faces so that it was, anonymous as it were. Um, I made a mistake in the Zoom because I didn't video me. I videoed everybody else. So you just got a still image of me. But there you go. Listen to it, and there's various sort of slides that you'll see later on in it. And they have the words and various other bits and pieces and some practices that you can do too. So I hope you enjoy it. Hi, folks. I hope everybody's doing good. So I'm going to start by singing a song, which is it's a medicine song, basically. It's a Tibetan medicine song. I'll explain what it is that I'm singing and give you an English translation at the end of it. Olgan yolgi nusjan sampama kesodong pulla yarsan chogni nagdrupne pama june shei sundrag Cordu candro mag per cor cerche Gesù drag drup cri Cingil obcir sheg susel Guru pemar sidi hum. That's a song called the Seven-Line Song to Padmasambhava, and I'll talk a bit about who Padmasambhava is in a minute. But that song in English, I'm going to have to look at my crib sheet because I can't remember what the English is completely. Okay, Hung, in the northwest of the land of Odiyana, in the heart of a lotus flower, endowed with the most marvellous attainments. You are renowned as the lotus-born, surrounded by many hosts of dakinis. Following in your footsteps, I pray to you, come inspire me with your blessings. Guru Pema Siddhi Hung. That's a song to Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava is the Tantric Buddha, and he's kind of my main central practice. So I start my mornings every morning with singing that song, normally 3 times. It's said that the first time that you sing it, he hears you. The second time he comes, and the third time he's there, he has arrived. So I just sang it once tonight for brevity, but it's a lovely song. It's very ancient. The tradition is that a group of Buddhist practitioners in Nepal back in the 8th century needed Padmasambhava to come to them because they had a problem, and so they composed it and they sang it, and Padmasambhava was in Tibet at the time and he flew from Tibet to Nepal. So refuge is kind of your connection to the Buddha, and it can be the historical Buddha who was born around 2,500 years ago, or it can be the Tantric Buddha, Padmasambhava, or it can be any Buddha. And it's not kind of like mutually exclusive. If you are a Buddhist, it doesn't mean that you can't follow other paths. Although I'm a Buddhist, my main path is shamanism, as I expect most of you know. And for me, it fits very well with shamanism, especially because I'm involved in Tibetan Buddhism. And Tibetan Buddhism has this long history of connection with shamanism because Tibet was a shamanic country before Buddhism came there. And so Tibetan Buddhism is a kind of unique form of Buddhism. It's quite different to most of the others. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is that you're doing. And first of all, I want to talk about my lineage. I took refuge about 30 years ago with a lama called Ngak'chang Rinpoche, who gave me refuge and taught me my basic stuff, my basic practices. His teacher was Yeshe Dorje Rinpoche, Ngakpa Yeshe Dorje Rinpoche, and also Dodjum Rinpoche, and they are both Tibetan Red Hat Nyingma Buddhists. Now, there's lots of different forms of Buddhism, far too many for me to go into, but basically in Tibet, Padmasambhava arrived in Tibet and brought Buddhism there around about the 8th century, so kind of in the European Dark Ages. And it was a shamanic country up until that point. And so Padmasambhava, who was born in Odiyana, that's the story. Odiyana is the Swat Valley of Pakistan. And although we think of Pakistan as a very Islamic country, there's still shamanism, a sort of Islamic form of shamanism now, in the Swat Valley in the north of Pakistan. Padmasambhava grew up and was in this area, which is considered to be a very magical place. And then, I won't go into the whole long story. If you want to kind of look at the life story of Padmasambhava, you can find it online pretty easily. It's quite a complex kind of long legend, really, where he has lots of different adventures. But basically, he traveled all over India, and he traveled into Nepal. The Nepalese shamans say that they taught him. Undoubtedly, that's probably true, because when he arrived in Tibet, called into Tibet by the king of Tibet because they were having trouble with a particular spirit that was demolishing a monastery they were trying to build, Padmasambhava brought all his teachings from all over the place and merged them with the Tibetan shamanic traditions and formed the very first school in Tibet called the Nyingma, which means ancient school. And then gradually over the centuries, different schools have formed in Tibet, and it's kind of got reformed. You get the Yellow Hat School, which is the newest one, and they are much sort of reformed and not so magical as the Nyingma, who are the ancient ones and the most shamanic. So I'm a Nyingma. I'm a Nyingmapa. Pa means man, and Nyingma ma would be a woman. Ma is the female. So the original Buddha, back in India, born in Nepal, but lived most of his life in India and died there, prophesied that one greater than him would be born, and he would teach the magical traditions. There's two kind of traditions within Buddhism. You get what's called the sutric version, which is kind of moral, good teachings. The Buddha basically taught that, and not a lot of magic. And then as he died, he prophesied that Padmasambhava would be born in Odiyana, and he would teach Tantra, which is nothing like the New Age sort of form of Tantra. Tantra is the magical form of Buddhism. Technically, Tibetan Buddhism is called Vajrayana, which is the sort of the technical term for Tantric Buddhism. So Padmasambhava is one Buddha, and the original historic Buddha is another Buddha. It doesn't matter which you're taking refuge in. You're going to take refuge in all of the Buddhas, because it's easier to take refuge in an external figure, because we forget that we're Buddhas. We're Buddhas, but we don't realize that we're Buddhas because we are full of karmic obscurations. And so we take refuge, literally become sheltering underneath the great kind of canopy of the Buddha, because it's an inspiration. When we realize that we're Buddhas ourselves, we don't need to take refuge, because we don't need to shelter under that place of inspiration. So I think the next thing to do really is to actually take the refuge vow. So I'm going to bring that up, and hopefully everybody can see that. So this is the refuge prayer. So I'm going to read it, and what I want you to do, I'm going to read each line and give you a gap for you to say it back to me, so you'll repeat it. There's no obligations to this. There's no prerequisites. There's no kind of rules or anything that you're signing your life away for. The only thing would be, try and be a nice person. Try and be kind. Try and generate compassion. So this is the refuge vow, and you're saying it to the universe. You're not saying it to me. You're saying it to the universe. So I'll say it and you repeat it. Sitting in the center point of the 10 directions, in the heart of creation, beautifully seated, aware and focused. In all the Buddhas and the Gurus, I take refuge. Sitting in the center point of the 10 directions, in the heart of creation, beautifully seated, aware and focused. In all the Dharma teachings and the yidams, I take refuge. Sitting in the center point of the 10 directions, in the heart of creation, beautifully seated, aware and focused. In all the brothers and the sisters of the Sangha and the Takinis, I take refuge. I take refuge for the benefit of all beings. So let me explain some of that. I take refuge in the Buddhas. That's fairly simple. You're taking refuge in all of the Buddhas. You're talking about the historical Buddha and the Buddhas that came before him, and Padmasambhava and Maitreya, the Buddha yet to come, and all of the Buddhas. So you're sheltering under their protection. And guru's kind of got a bit of a dirty word in the West, but it just means teacher. And in this particular kind of way of looking at it, it's a teacher of Buddhist teaching. So you're taking refuge in the Buddhas and all those who teach Buddhist traditions, whatever path it is, whether it's the sutric path, whether it's the tantric path, it doesn't matter. This is a kind of equal opportunity refuge. You're just taking shelter. And then the next verse, or the next bit, you're taking refuge in the Dharma teachings. Now, Dharma is the Buddhist teachings. So it's any teaching that comes from Buddhism. Whatever form that is. And then you've got the word yidam. Now, a yidam is basically a spirit helper. In Buddhism, you get these beings which you do practice for, or you're connected to them and you do their practice. So a yidam is a Buddhist spirit helper. And so you would do certain rituals, you would make offerings, you would say their mantras, you would do all of those sorts of things for a yidam. In Nepalese shamanism, you get exactly the same thing, but they use the word istudeyu, and it is the same thing. It's a spirit helper. So your yidam may be a being that you feel very connected to. Maybe you've always felt very connected to it. I've always felt very connected to Mahakala. So Mahakala is one of my yidams. And also because he appears in the Nepalese shamanic traditions, he's also my Istadeyo. We often have a yidam that we feel somehow at home with. You know, I first realized that I had Mahakala around me when I was an adult, but looking back, it had been there all the time. He had been there. He's very connected with crows, and crows were a very significant being in my early childhood. And so you kind of come in with this karmic connection to a yidam, whatever it is, and there's lots and lots of them. There's so many that, you know, little monasteries in Tibet will have their own, or they'll have different manifestations of a particular yidam. You know, like Mahakala, there's loads of different forms of Mahakala. So you kind of understand what this is as you get to know more about Buddhism, and you kind of make and feel that connection. And sometimes if you're working with a lama in a close way, if you really kind of have a rinpoche that you're working with or something like that, they will sometimes see perhaps better than you can, and they will suggest a yidam. And they will give you the empowerment for it. Generally, these beings need to have empowerments given for them. There's three parts to an empowerment. There's the wang, the lung, and the tree. Now, the wang is kind of like the energy of the spirit that is kind of connected to you. You're connected in a ritual way to the yidam through the wang. And then there's the lung, which is the teachings about that being. And then there's the tree, which is the method of practice. So in an empowerment, you get those three, and then you can do the empowerment. A little bit later, I'm going to give you some practices that you can do with two beings that you don't really need an empowerment for. And they're compassionate beings. Not all yidams are compassionate. Well, they're all compassionate, but some of them give tough love. You know, they're kind of scary compassion. Yeah? Whereas some of the beings are very kind of serene and calm and gentle, and they give gentle, peaceful, compassionate teachings. So you find a yidam for yourself, And that will hopefully grow if you follow a Buddhist path. You will work out what it is that you need to do and find a connection to one. And then the next verse, all the brothers and sisters of the Sangha, they're all of you, and they're me, and they're all of the people all over the world who are practicing some form of Buddhism. And more specifically, if you get involved with a particular lineage of Buddhism, then the Sangha of that lineage is a kind of like a close group of companions for you. So you take refuge in them too. You've got a problem, you go and talk to your Sangha brothers or sisters. They help you with understanding teachings or what it is that you need to do. And then the dakinis. Now the dakinis are spirit beings. They're spirit beings who are female, and they kind of remind me of the muses, the Greek muses. They inspire. I do practice every morning, and I sit and I do different sort of mantras and sit quietly and make offerings and all of that. And I'll have downloads, for want of a better word. I kind of don't like the word downloads because it feels a bit new agey, but it's a good word. It describes the process. And these downloads I think of as the whispering of the dakinis. Now, there's lots of traditions in Tibet about the dakinis. Dakini is a Sanskrit word. The Tibetan word is kandro. It means skygoer or sky flyer. They're a bit like fairies in some respects. And they inspire the practitioners, and they give to advanced practitioners, they give teachings in dreams, and they help uncover hidden teachings. Now, we're getting into some more sort of esoteric stuff here, but one of the things that Padmasambhava did back in the 8th century was he hid teachings and he hid ritual objects, which are called terma. And they were hidden in a magical way, and they were guarded by dakinis very often. And then you get a group of practitioners called tertan, and the tertan are treasure revealers. They go around and they either dig out of rocks, sometimes in a very magical way. It's like they will use a particular ritual object, such as a purba dagger, and they will kind of open the rocks and reach inside and pull out something. And they also get mind teachings, which are like really complex downloads. And these are all terma, all left for the benefit of future beings by Padmasambhava. So the dakinis are really important in that. And the dakinis sort of whisper in the ear of normal practitioners and inspire them in some way. So you're taking refuge in the Buddhas and the teachers of Buddhism, and you're taking refuge in all of the teachings of Buddhism and the spirit helpers of Buddhism, and you're taking refuge in the brothers and sisters of the Sangha and the dakinis, who will whisper instructions and downloads to you. And you're doing it for the benefit of all beings. My first teachers were Native American, and there's that kind of slightly corny but absolutely true phrase from the Native American traditions: we're all related. And we absolutely are. So when we do a ceremony, whatever it is, we do it for all beings. And you're taking refuge for the benefit of all beings, because everybody is a Buddha, and we don't know that. So you, in effect, are saying that you're going to work towards becoming a conscious Buddha so that you can help all the rest of the people. You're doing it for the benefit of all beings. So when you are working with Buddhist practice, there are four. Well, basically, you're working with compassion. You're trying to alleviate suffering and build compassion. So these are called the four immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in harmony, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Now those three at the end, they are a real root central part in Buddhism. They're called the three poisons. And the three poisons, they kind of bind us. They keep us dumb. They keep us stupid. They keep us unaware. And they bind us to samsara, which is the cycle of life and birth and rebirth and death and all of that lot. And if you ever see a tanka painting, which is those Tibetan tankas, they're paintings kind of in cloth frames. I'm sure you've probably seen them and you probably have some. But in the middle of one very famous tanka, which is the Wheel of Rebirth, which is literally a wheel of all of the worlds that you can be born into after you've died. Human world, animal world, hungry ghost world, and the others. There are a cockerel, a snake, and a pig in the middle. And they represent attraction, which is attachment, revulsion or repulsion, which is the anger, and ignorance, which is the bias. Because being attracted to something or being horrified and repulsed by it and being ignorant of Buddhist teachings or just any spiritual teachings, they keep us in that place of ignorance. And if we're in that place of ignorance, then we continue to collect karma and we continue to expend lots of energy and live a kind of life going round and round in circles, and ultimately in a big way going round and round in circles through birth, life, old age, sickness, death, rebirth, the biggest circle of them all. So the four immeasurables are kind of like a kind of governing aspiration, a kind of governing prayer, so to speak, that you're seeking to alleviate suffering and bring happiness. So when you take on Buddhist practice at the beginning and you get your first Buddhist practice, it's generally a peaceful one. There's three forms of yidam. The three forms are peaceful, joyful, and wrathful. And you always generally start off with a peaceful one because they're kind of the easiest to approach. And there's lots of different peaceful yidams, but there are two who have kind of said that they are there for the benefit of all beings, whether those beings have been initiated or empowered or whatever. They're just there. And one of them is Green Tara, and the other one is Chenrezig. And I'm not going to go through it in any great depth, but there's a very simple form of practice for Green Tara. You need a mala. Now, a mala is a string of prayer beads. There's 108 of them. And because it's a peaceful practice, you need a peaceful mala. This is sandalwood. They're really cheap. I've seen very recently, in the last couple of days, I've seen some malas like this on eBay for about £4, $5. I mean, ridiculous price, really crazy price. You could have gemstones. This mala is actually my Green Tara mala, and it's made from turquoise. You wouldn't have, for a peaceful practice, you wouldn't have bone. So you need a gemstone or a wooden mala. Bone malas are used for wrathful practice. And often they're human bone. I've got human bone malas, but a lot of malas that you get on eBay and in Dharma shops and whatever, they're animal bone. But bone is a wrathful thing, so you don't want a wrathful mala for a peaceful practice. So the Green Tara practice, I'm really not going to go through it because it's pretty simple and you can read it afterwards. But basically, you kind of get to a point where you are in a peaceful place. You sit and you can do a little bit of meditation or whatever it is, so that you're feeling in a calm place, a relaxed place. And that's a picture of Green Tara there. And then when you've kind of got in that place, you visualize her. You visualize her in front of you. And you say her mantra. Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. And you would say that 108 times. So if any of you have worked with Bola, Bola teaches that you hold the mala in his tradition. Let's find the end of the mala. Where are we? Here we go. You hold the mala in the right hand in Bola's tradition. In the Buddhist tradition, you hold it in the left hand. And you start at what's called the guru bead, which is the bead that generally has tassels hanging down. And you just go round it, saying the mala with each movement of the beads. So you do it 108 times until you've gone all the way around to the guru bead again. And it's always good to aim to do 100,000 mantras. That's a kind of entry level. Now, 100,000 mantras is one mala of 108 for about 3 years. So it's kind of not, you know, an enormous amount to do. It takes you just a few minutes in the morning to just sit quietly, greet the day, say hello to your spirits and whatever it is you want to do, and visualize Green Tara in front of you and say her mantra 108 times. And you're doing it for the benefit of all beings. You're doing it for all your relations. And we'll come to that little bit in a moment. So that's the Green Tara one. The other peaceful one is Chenrezig. Now Chenrezig, and I'll get to his picture so that you can see who he is. There you go. Chenrezig is male. Green Tara is female, obviously. Chenrezig sits there, his hands clasped over his chest. He's holding a wish-fulfilling jewel between his hands in the prayer position there. And he's holding a mala in his, where are we? That's his right hand. And he is holding a lotus flower in his left hand. And he is a male, kind of very peaceful, very compassionate. He's the Bodhisattva of compassion. Now, Bodhisattva is a Buddha that has not vanished from the world. They kind of wish to continue to influence the world and be born often in the world again, so that they can benefit all beings in a very physical way. And you'll know his mantra. I'm absolutely certain that you'll know his mantra because it's Om Mani Padme Hum. And again, you would imagine him in front of you. You would visualize him in front of you. You would sit quietly and you would say his mantra 108 times. Visualizing him radiating out light that washes away, as it says there. He bathes you and all sentient beings with a light that washes away all ignorance and negativity and changes us all into enlightened beings like Chenrezig. And then, when you've done it, you have to dedicate the positives that you have created. And in Buddhism, this is called merit. Now, I was taught Native American traditions. First of all, they were my first teachers and I worked with them for many years. And they again have a phrase that I'm sure you will have heard: for all my relations. That's the same as all the Buddhist long phrases. This is a very short Buddhist dedication of merit. Through the merit of this practice, may all beings attain awakenness. Through the merit of this practice, may all beings conquer the enemy of delusion. Through the merit of this practice, may all beings be liberated from the ocean of samsara. That's the wheel of life and birth and rebirth and death and everything else. And from samsara's cycles of birth, old age, sickness, and death. I get kind of irritated. I'm a bad Buddhist. I always absolutely say that I'm a bad Buddhist because I get irritated by Buddhism. It's so verbose. They love their words. So I just say for all my relations because it's short, it's easy, and it's very much part of my kind of early training. So it's hardwired into me to say for all my relations whenever I do something ceremonial. If you like words, then find a merit dedication, and some of them, that's incredibly short, what's up there now. Some of them are so long. They're really, really long and complex. And read it. Buddhist practice is often extremely, like I say, verbose. It's extremely long-winded. Most practices, they have something called a sadhana. A sadhana is prescribed prayers, like a verse, like verse is a good way of putting it. One of my Native American teachers used to say no canned prayers. It's like when you come to a ceremony, you make up the prayers from your heart, and that's very much how I approach Buddhism. So when I get a practice and I look at the sadhana, which is long and complicated, I look at the essence of that. And then I improvise and I say the prayers from my heart in the moment. That makes me a bad Buddhist. There's lots of Buddhists that would wrap my knuckles for doing that, because you're supposed to kind of repeat it, absolutely to the way it's written. But I like shorthand, and I don't mind being a bad Buddhist. I'll probably regret it next life, but at the moment I'm kind of doing okay. So, for all my relations, you dedicate it. It's called sealing the practice. When you do something ceremonial and you make a prayer, you're kind of giving it away. You're giving it away for the benefit of all beings, and that helps you generate compassion. And compassion is the central point of all of this, to generate compassion. And of course, if you give away the merit and you're really giving it away from your heart, then it kind of comes back to you, and that benefits you. It will help remove negative karma. It will help remove your obscurations and help your own spiritual development. But you can't do it kind of because you want that to happen. You've got to just give it away unattached, knowing that if you do, it will come back to you. So I think what I'd like to do now is see if there's any questions, basically. So if you've got questions, put them in the chat and I will try and reply to them. 10 directions. Yeah, 10 directions. They're really central to not just Buddhism, but all sacred traditions, really. The 10 directions are literally the 8 around you, in front of you, behind you, to the left of you, to the right of you, and in between each of those directions, and the above and the below. So when you're doing practice, you will often involve that in a prayer, or if you're doing protection work or something like that, you will work with the 10 directions. I do a lot of work with a purba, which is the I haven't got one here to show you, but it's the Tibetan, it's the Himalayan it's kind of like a dagger, but it's not actually a dagger. It's more like a spike, and they're used to pin down hostile energies. And so I'd be working with that in the 10 directions. I will often put an imaginary visualized purba around me in part of my morning practice each day as a form of protection. But that's a whole other topic. Wrathful practice with a yidam without an initiation. Generally, it's considered to be not a good idea. There's nothing stopping you doing it, but it's not a good idea because They are so well. Their name, the fact that they're wrathful means that they have a high energy, and if you're not grounded in some way, they can be very disruptive. So part of grounding you is getting the initiation. Now, because you've just taken refuge, you can take Buddhist initiations if they come up, and more they come up on Zoom. There's a Facebook group called Vajrayana Events, I think, which I'm a member of, and they often will have adverts for different empowerments and things with beings that you may never have heard of, or you may have heard of, and some of them are peaceful and some of them are wrathful. But once you get an empowerment, then it's like a safeguard, because you're getting a kind of, it's like an introduction to the spirit. So rather than you kind of just blundering in on it and hoping for the best, it's given to you in a kind of more formal way so that you're introduced to it. So generally, you wouldn't do a wrathful practice unless you knew about it and that you had the empowerment for it. If you want to do both of the malas practices each day, fine, Chenrezig and Green Tara, or whichever one appeals to you. I put two, and I put one male and one female because people have different preferences. And if you want to do both, that's fine. And if you want to do neither, that's fine. Just to confirm, we carry on the practice daily for 3 years. No, you carry it on for as long as you want to. And if you want to stop before the 3 years, that's fine. I've been doing Padmasambhava practice for 30 years, and I've done hundreds of thousands of mantras of Padmasambhava each day over those 30-year period. If you want to sing the mantras, a lot of them have songs. I actually don't know the melodies for those two mantras. There are various mantras that I do sing, but it's fine to say them out loud. It's fine to sing them if you can find a melody, and YouTube has got various videos of melodies and things, so you can watch something on YouTube and learn the melody if you wish. And it's fine to say them quietly to yourself. If you don't have immediate access to a teacher, find some stuff online. There's lots of podcasts. There's lots of teachings available online. If you're a member of my Facebook group, the Three World Shamanism group, it's quite Buddhist, it's quite Tibetan heavy. It's not entirely, and it's not so much Buddhist heavy, but it's Himalayan traditions heavy, and people do talk about Buddhist practice and things in there. We do try to keep it towards the magical end, but it's not always like that. So you can ask questions in there. But if you haven't got a teacher near you, a human physical teacher, there's plenty of stuff online you can find. Heart of Creation. Heart of Creation is to do, it's complex, this one, but it's quite important. In the medicine wheel traditions, which just about every culture has in some form, they work with 5 elements: earth, water, air, fire, and space. Now, every tradition will have those in different places, and they'll associate different colours and whatever, but they all tend to have those 5 elements. And in all of those traditions, it generally is that space is in the centre. There's a fundamental Buddhist teaching which applies to all sacred traditions, really. It's about emptiness and form. And the teaching is that form emerges out of emptiness and then dissolves back into emptiness again and then re-emerges as form. It's the universe breathing in and out. It's like the Big Bang theory. It's like the Big Bang happened because it kind of emerged out of emptiness, and nobody really knows what's going to happen at the end. But my bet is that it will collapse back on itself and go back into emptiness, and then it will re-emerge again. And emptiness is that center point of the medicine wheel. And so everything emerges from that point. In medicine wheel teachings, it's our soul. It's like I'm not my body, I'm not my spiritual manifestation, I'm not my emotions, and I'm not my thoughts. I'm my soul. And each time that we're born, our soul gives birth to all of those other aspects, because that's the empty place. And so the heart of creation is that emptiness. It's sitting in the center. The center is where I mean, we're getting into some really deep stuff here, but the center is where you go when you do a ceremony. When you do a ceremony, you step into the center of the world. And you're stepping into that center point because that is the very much the heart of creation. It is absolutely the center of the universe. You know, there's a beautiful Lakota prayer song, a pipe song that I sing when I do pipe ceremonies. With this pipe, I go to the center of the world, and there I pray for all beings. It's the same thing. It's the center point. So that's the heart of creation. Will I consider offering more teachings? I don't know. I'm not a fan of Zoom. Maybe. Maybe. I do a podcast. I do the Three Worlds podcast, and I do the Three Worlds Shamanism YouTube channel, although I haven't put a new video up there for a few years. But the podcast, I try and do a series each year. What's the Facebook page that I mentioned? The Three Worlds. Everything I do is Three Worlds. Three Worlds Shamanism Facebook group. And the Three Worlds podcast and the Three Worlds YouTube channel. Ah, dear. This is a lineage, this is a refuge that is ecumenical. I'm a Tibetan Buddhist. I'm a Nyingmapa, as I said. But now that you've had refuge, you could become a Theravadan Buddhist. You know, they're the ones from Southeast Asia, and they don't do so much magic. Or you could become a Zen Buddhist from Japan or in China, where they have them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You are simply opening the door, and through that door you'll find your own path, and you'll go on the adventures that you go on. And maybe you won't even go through that door. Maybe this has turned you off from Buddhism completely. That's fine. That's fine. A lot of empowerments are seen as seeds planted in us for future ripening in another life. So you've had this now, this life. Maybe next life you'll get a sudden hankering to go and become a Buddhist, and that's fine too. So it doesn't matter. There's no obligations. But this is just a general introduction. This is just a general refuge. If you feel drawn to the Tibetan traditions, then absolutely go with the Tibetan traditions. You know, for me, they're the bee's knees, and they're the most shamanic. Like I say, I practice shamanism, and I'm a very bad Buddhist. So somebody's just said something about Green Tara. Oh, okay, you sat with them for 4 years. Yes, absolutely. Green Tara's lovely. I've done Green Tara practice for 30 years too. She's another one I do most mornings. I don't do Chenrezig. He doesn't appeal to me. I have his empowerment. I received his empowerment in Mongolia a few years ago when I was there, but it just doesn't appeal to me. Actually, I don't have a Green Tara empowerment. It's lacking. I must get it one at some point, but it's just never come up. But I just do the practice like you guys will without having the empowerment. I visualize her in front of me and I say the mantra each day. And while I'm visualizing her, I will visualize blessings going out to the world. She's somebody that, you know, if I've got to go and visit the doctor or the dentist or something like that, and you're sitting in the waiting room and there's so much angst and so much grot in the waiting room caused by the anxiety, I will often sit there and do Green Tara practice to help cleanse the surgery waiting room. She's a lovely practice to do. She's really, really delightful. So you do it and you radiate out the blessings and the peace and the compassion and the love. She's shown with her her right foot extended because she's in the process of standing up. That's why she sits like that. She's standing up because she knows that you're suffering and she's rushing to help you. She's often called the Savioress. And also she has the name Dolma in Tibet. Dolma is a woman's name in Tibet, so Dolma is the name of Tara. Okay, I think we've just about done through all of the questions. So I think we might be more or less done. I want to thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, I think we're done, folks. So my email address I gave, it's nick@sacredhoop.org. And thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. So I shall end now and let you get on with the rest of your evenings and days.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.